Do you feel you're thinking ambitiously enough with Coinbase today?
So, look, 10 years ago, when I started the company, I remember thinking about this. I was like, what? Because I had tried a bunch of startup ideas and most of them didn't work. And I was like, what's the thing that I'm so passionate about? It's so crazy that in 10 years, I'll still be like super fired up to be working on it. And so, obviously creating an entirely new economy for the whole world is a pretty ambitious thing. One that's more free and fair and global. And so, look, that's a 100-year mission. And we're going to keep doing that for a long time. And the mission of Coinbase is to increase economic freedom in the world. And that's something I'm really passionate about. I have a whole spiel on that about why economic freedom is so important. One thing we've thought about, I actually haven't shared this before, is that if somehow we feel like we're starting to make a real dent in economic freedom, would we expand the mission of the company at some point to just be about increasing freedom in the world? Period. All kinds of freedom, right? And you could imagine there's many types of freedom that are under threat today, right? There's, people, I feel like a lot of the tools and the apps that we use, they're being, basically run by like bigger and bigger tech companies. They're being influenced by governments. There's censorship issues. There's data privacy issues. And we've seen the rise of things like, Signal and WhatsApp with encrypted messages that 10 years ago, that was considered like, oh, if you were using encrypted messaging, you were a terrorist or something. Now it's like the norm and it's the expectation. People don't want to have their stuff floating all over the world in plain text. And you could imagine all the layers of the stack, from the browser to where you store your data like Google Drive and Dropbox. There should probably be a decentralized private version of that using, Filecoin or whatever. You could imagine internet service providers. Like we're seeing more decentralization of that, I think, with things like Starlink and whatnot. Even computer like the operating systems, mobile and desktop, and increasingly VR, AR, and the hardware itself. These are all things which can be, they can have pressure points where bad actors can basically inject themselves in there. And so how can we kind of decentralize and increase freedom across all these dimensions, the freedom stack, if you will? So look, we're not changing the mission anytime soon, but that's one thing I've thought about over time is Coinbase is starting with financial services, arguably one of the most important, if not the most foundation of freedom. Like if you can't store your own wealth in a way that it can't be taken from you, then you probably don't have freedom in any other thing. But if you have that, then how do we add in other layers of freedom around, speech and other things?
A final one for the quickfire. What is the barrier to that transition from financial freedom to freedom? Is that just pure adoption from consumer side adoption? Is it pure cash and resources to do multiple things at once? What is the barrier to that transition?
Yeah, I think it's capital. It's basically capital. Kind of like what we were saying earlier. If you acquire more capital, you can kind of do more ambitious things. And so I think that we need to stay focused for now on financial services and what we're doing with economic freedom. And then you could imagine as we scale the company, there'll be opportunities for various building new things, investing in things, buying other companies. And there could be a larger vision there over time.